This is a quick overview of our plan for the third week of our social media course this semester. So before starting this week, you should have read the content in Student for Chapter 3. And within that content, you're going to see that there are 11 steps that are outlined for the process of creating a social media marketing strategy. So this chapter is really meant as an overview of these steps. We are not going to complete all 11 steps in just 1 week worth of our semester. So our rough plan will be to complete 1 or 2 steps each week throughout the semester, and we will be completing these by section. So each section may have a different business or entity or organization that they will develop a social media marketing strategy for. So in this chapter, the objectives are pretty straightforward here. So we're going to learn about identifying target markets and personas, doing social media audits. So we're going to look at a business's social media and determine what channels they're using and how often they're posting, if at all, and what the results might be for engagement. Then we're going to work with the business and determine their goals, their objectives, and metrics. We'll look at how to determine resources and roles because usually when we're talking about social media, we're not working alone. We'll be part of a team or in a marketing department scenario where you may be responsible for one component of this bigger picture. Next thing this chapter will cover is tone of voice. So if you're managing social media from multiple companies, you want to ensure you're speaking to their prospective audiences in the way that they want to address them. So whether that's formal or casual or really witty, that's something to determine what type of tone you would use in the writing that you're going to share out on their platforms. Next thing would be optimizing social media networks, creating a content and distribution strategy, developing a social media content calendar and scheduling your content, and then analyzing, tracking, and then fine-tuning and kind of repeating the process from the point of implementing that strategy. So that's kind of overview for Chapter 3. In class, we'll take a look at Chapter 2 just as a refresher where we ended up on personal branding. And assignment-wise, we will also be looking at Mimic Social, which is our simulation that's bundled with the student content. So prior to getting into Mimic Social, there's a couple things that you should be taking a look at. One of them is this document called Mimic Social Tips, and there's a 2-column format here. Start over here on the left side and kind of go through some of those tips, and then on the right side there's some more detailed information. So first step here, first item is to make sure you're paying attention to the social media audit. So before you go and start working within Mimic Social, read these tips, and then definitely first step would be to complete this. Search Engine Marketing Rush is a company, so SEM Rush. They have this competitive analysis project that is geared specifically toward the company that you work with inside the simulation called Boohee Bags. And so the competitive analysis and social posting project, this walks you through. They've created the SWOT analysis already for you, and they outline the steps based on that SWOT analysis on how to find similar competitors within SEM Rush, and how to do a little bit of kind of background research before you get started in the simulation. So there'll be another video kind of highlighting that after this. So that the output of that project or assignment will be to create a spreadsheet that tracks the data that you had researched, and developing an action plan for creating the content for Boohee bags. And so those two components you'll be able to use when you go over to complete the first round of Mimic Social. So there's going to be 12 rounds total. Usually what they're set up so that the odd numbered rounds, so 1, 3, 5, 7, those are the rounds where you're actually doing the setup and spending the virtual money there in the simulation. And then the even numbered rounds, you're doing your analysis and coming up with some results that had developed after the simulation runs, and implements all of your content marketing or social media marketing as you had set it up in the previous round. So it's basically 6 rounds of the actual setup and configuration, and then 6 rounds of analysis and reporting. So we will also have separate videos set up for those. But overall for the week, that's kind of what we're going to cover. We may have one more assignment related to the individual groups that each section is going to work with. And so the 2 sections for second year students, they'll be developing kind of a small scale social media strategy for their website projects that they worked on last semester, as well as their student spring show, which will be happening in April this year. And then the online section for first years will be developing a content strategy for the makerspace here on campus called Gizmo, and we'll be working with Barb over there off and on and getting her feedback and input on a lot of the questions that you might have about their organization, so that we can build a successful strategy for them. So that sums up our overview for the 3rd week here. Look for the next video in each of these sections.